and how do you do? Welcome to the NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 5th of April 2021. I hope you all had a brilliant Easter weekend and didn't eat too much chocolate to protect the waistline. It's Gary Gillen here and I'm your host for this week's edition, and I do hope everybody's doing great and getting a wee bit re-energised to get back to talking about competitive domestic football for our beloved club again, and also looking forward to our ongoing attempt to finish the season as Invincibles and hopefully putting one more over on the team from the East in our quest for Scottish Cup glory. I have to admit, when I heard on the weekend that we hadn't actually won the Scottish Cup since 2009, I was a bit unpleasantly surprised, to be perfectly honest. That's not cool for a team like Rangers. Of course, we know what happened to the team since 2012 to get us back on top to, as we are right now. But 2009 was a little bit of a surprise for me. So hopefully Stevie, Gerrard and the rest of the management team can bring home the League and Cup double for us this season. I think I'm a wee bit biased, but that would be the least we deserve after a stellar season. And since we last won the Scottish Cup in 2009, I'm going to list off the teams who have won it since then. Dundee United, Hearts, St Johnstone, Inverness, Hibs, yep, remember that one, and Celtic, all winning the trophy. So it will be nice for us to get our name back into the mix and, more importantly, back on to that trophy again. So from a game segment perspective, just the one Rangers game this past week, and that was yesterday's Scottish Cup third round 4-0 home win against Cove Rangers with goals from Jermaine Defoe, Kamar Roof, two from Kamar Roof, and Nathan Patterson. All the goals I thought were excellent. After a bit of a semi-slow start, we had a 3-goal in 8-minute blitz from the 24th to the 32nd minute, and then the tie was effectively over. 4-0 at half time, and not really sure anybody would have bet that that's the way the tie would have actually ended. But no goals in the second half, no real sustained pressure, a couple of saves from the goalie, some blocks and things like that, but nothing too exciting. But the main thing is, of course, in any cup tie that we are through, and it was good to see us field a strong team from the very beginning, albeit with some periphery players there, as we want to really truly take this competition very seriously. And you could tell that, especially after we got knocked out of Europe, that Steven Gerrard had then focused his attention on the Scottish Cup and has mentioned that many a time on interviews that he's done since. So we're obviously taking the competition very seriously to give us the best chance to win it, and hopefully long may that continue on to the 22nd of May. And during the broadcast yesterday, you might have heard Mark Haitley and Tom Miller on the RTV Communications give us a really good solid shout out after the Marvin Andrews team segment piece that they did at half time, and the reason they mentioned NARSA after that was that Marvin was actually filmed on that segment at the Windsor convention, which was obviously our last convention back in 2019. So it's always really good to hear the shout outs and some positivity coming NARSA's way from the folks on comms. And just a kind of a wrap up from last week. I know I'd mentioned it last week, I'm not going to get into too much detail this week, but just another real genuine tip of the hat shout out to Stephen Davis, who did indeed break Peter Shilton's record and is now formally Britain's most capped player ever with 126 caps. Just utterly incredible achievement. And then from last week's shout out, I'm sure there's an absolute direct correlation between me mentioning Alan McGregor and then him signing a 1-year extension to be with the club. But it was great to see that he has signed a 1-year extension, and obviously that bodes well for us, and you can see that the preparations and planning are already underway for season 21-22 as well. So great to have Alan tied up for a wee bit longer. I heard rumours at the beginning of this season that this was going to be his last season, so I think scintillating form and some trophies would probably help to calm down any ailing body parts that might have been causing him some concern. So great to see him signing on. So our next game is going to be this coming weekend's league match at home to Hibs, and that's on Sunday the 11th of April with a 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time kick-off, and that's the first game of the league fixtures for the post-split last 5 fixtures that we have as well. So that's Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the last time we played Hibs at home was on Boxing Day, where we ran out 1-0 winners thanks to Yanis Hadji first half strike, and we also played them twice at Easter Road, where we won 1-0 in late January in the game that you might remember caused all the controversy with Morelos scoring the winner after he stamped on the fellow, and that clown of an author, Irving Welsh, saying that he should be basically murdered as a result of that. Just silliness of the highest order. But the one that was a bit more telling from a, what would you say, season standing perspective, was the 2-2 draw that we had with Hibs at Easter Road again back in September, which was one of the last times that we dropped points, or was the last time actually we dropped points before our incredible win streak began, that truly set the foundation for 55 as well. And I remember being not quite as devastated that day as we were with the 0-0 draw that we had against Livingston in August time, but it was just, they had an offside goal, that there was some mistakes made for both of the goals that we lost. It was more justifiable. Like, I think you could say with in-game errors and a flow to the game that dictated the fact that we were going to get a 2-2 draw. And unlike Livingston, which was kind of just a little bit, lack of ideas and things that caused us great concern at that time. But then we went on that run, as I say, and it's been tremendous ever since. So, I mean, all that to say, 3 games against them, a draw and 2 1-0 wins. The games have been very tight, and Hibs are in a very commanding position in the league here with 7-point gap over 4th placed Aberdeen. And obviously the game is not going to be easy at all, which is honestly absolutely what I'd prefer, rather than having any genuine meaningless games. So bring it on, and we will see how we do at home to Hibs on Sunday. It feels like we're in a wee bit of a drought with games. I don't know what it's like for you, but we had all these games. We were basically midweek weekend for the longest time, whether it was Europe or just domestic games, and then it feels like we haven't played for ages, and so to have a week in between games is still a little bit of a struggle, but oh well, I guess that's the way it goes. And as a result of yesterday's game, obviously we are now going to be facing our arch rivals and the team in a very distant second position in the league table, Celtic, on probably either Saturday the 17th or Sunday the 18th of April. At the time of recording, right now it's just coming up for 6 o'clock on Monday night, my time, and we don't know. There hasn't been any announcements yet of what that date will be. And then, assuming we will get through that, we will have another home tie in the quarter-final the following week as well. So that would be against either St Johnstone or Clyde. So we can talk more about that next week as we get the battle fever on for the game. Points per game is the same as it was for the last 2 weeks, actually. Rangers 2.7, them 2.09. Just the regular weekly plug for the RTV vouchers. If you want any information on the RTV vouchers, please by all means get in touch with your club president or secretary. They can get in touch with me directly, and we will get you sorted out. As I've mentioned for the last few weeks now, I think we've kind of dried up on these, and it's basically only when people are just trying to activate or something goes wrong technically with their existing voucher. But I just want to say that they're still there, and we can still provide them for you for what will hopefully be the last 9 games of the season as well. And in terms of RTV payments for the year, if your club hasn't paid for the season yet, or has paid partial payments towards the season, we will be in touch once we do know how many games are going to be as part of the season. So if we continue with the run in the Scottish Cup, then we will most certainly have 9 additional games left. We'll be able to calculate that and then get in touch with your club to say this is what the balance will be for the season, and we will get that as quickly as we can. So just get prepared within your club to get this organised so we can get our TV paid as quickly as we possibly can. Of course, they have been very, very patient with us, because typically by now they would have received at least one advance payment or incremental payment towards the season, but they know that we've we've just kind of ran out of time a little bit, and they know the position that most of the clubs are in, so we're just in a situation now where we'll start to collect the payments and get them paid and wrap up the admin side for this season as well. From a shout out perspective, this week I have some very good news. I'm very, very happy to let you know that this week the NARSA family grew by one more, as little Theo Alistair Baird was born in Seattle at 5:53 p.m. on the 31st of March to very, very proud parents Davy and Rachel Baird. I was chatting with Davy just yesterday, and I know he's as proud as punch of his wee bundle of joy, and he also had him watching his first Scottish Cup match as well, and I couldn't be happier for them, and what he did do was he was very, very proud of and delighted for Rachel as well, because I know that the birth, she had a wee bit of a rough go of it, but she is super staunch and on her way to a full recovery now, which is terrific news for the whole family. So Davy and Rachel, huge congratulations to you both, or to all three of you now, from everyone at NARSA, and I very much look forward to meeting the wee man as soon as we can, once the US and Canadian border opens and it's safe to do so. But great news for both Davy and Rachel, smashing couple. They just moved up to Seattle very recently from San Francisco, former members of the San Francisco Rangers Supporters Club as well. So great people, and he is a little cutie, I'll tell you that. Brilliant news. From a convention update perspective, we did indeed get additional rooms put out for booking last Tuesday, and then they were pretty much sold out again by Wednesday. What is this like? So demand has been incredible for this event, obviously, and it's tremendous for us to see that. And what we'll do again, just to move forward, is we will chat again with the hotel to see what our best next move is here. I feel like we are kind of getting to a kind of plateau for right now, so I suspect a modest increase in existing room allocation is likely on the cards, and we will communicate this when we get to that spot. But if you haven't booked your rooms, please go on and give it a go. If they block it for essentially sold out, they've been a wee bit flexible with us to date, then get in touch and we will see how we go from there. But the conversations will be ongoing with the hotel as the week progresses. And from that, I know we've mentioned it a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, but a lot of attention is now turned to when the event ticket sales will be available. And like I mentioned last week, we don't have a firm update on that just yet, but we have been saying that we do hope to have it around about mid-April or thereabouts. We're as keen to get them out to truly get a sense of how many bodies we will have at the event, so that we can then plan accordingly. And we did indeed discuss this very thing at the NARSA Executive meeting last Wednesday, which I'll tell you about in a wee bit here. And we do need to go back and speak to the hotel banqueting organisation within the hotel to get a sense of the grand banquet Saturday night meal pricing, because that really essentially helps us form the main foundation for the overall ticketing prices as well. So a wee bit of work to do in behind the scenes, and then we will connect ourselves with the e-ticket provider and get ourselves going on that one. So that's going to be a definite focus for us over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll have some decent news about that as we move forward. And we're also working on, we probably should have done this a wee bit before, but working on a frequently asked questions document also to help us answer current convention questions and anything else that comes up on a more regular basis. If we get that finalised this week, we'll get it on our website, we'll get it sent out via email to all of our clubs, presidents and secretaries, and get it put out through our social media channels as well, so we can hopefully answer as many questions up front as possible. In the meantime, if you do have any specific questions, don't hesitate to reach out and from any communication vehicle that you prefer to use, and we'll be happy to answer as much as we possibly can on that as well. So yeah, good news overall on the convention front. From another business perspective, I did say last week that I would practice with my NordVPN account to give everyone a wee bit more information of my particular experiences. And with the convention hustle and bustle and prep for the NARSA exec meeting, I didn't honestly get a chance to do that just yet, but it's definitely on my list of things to do and tackle this week, and I'll provide a wee bit more update about that next week. And as I mentioned last week, that NordVPN very generously did donate 5 free accounts for NARSA members and friends, so we will get this out on the competition circuit, or whatever you would call that, and get moving on that if we can this week as well. We did a good job on that from a competition perspective last week, where we went through, we had an online competition via our social media channels where we asked entrants to guess the correct score of yesterday's Scottish Cup tie against Cove Rangers, and to follow NARSA if they weren't already following NARSA, and also to follow the Taxi Game on their social media platforms as well, just to help them get a wee bit more exposure. And it worked out really well, I have to say. So kudos to Andy Carey for his idea and getting that put through, and the competition went really well. And I think we had around 10 bears who met all of the required criteria, getting the score correct and doing the following, as I mentioned. And after a random draw through an online random generator, the winner was selected as Dr. David Kilpatrick from the New York area in the United States. So we will be making the arrangements to get the game sent to David, and I hope he enjoys it as much as I have. And huge congratulations to him, and thank you for participating in the competition. If you haven't considered, honestly, this is a bit of a plug, of course, but if you haven't considered a traditional board game as entertainment for this past while, I would encourage you to think about it and try and get this one. You won't be disappointed. As I mentioned, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, we had such a great time playing it as a family a few weeks back there. And it's not all Rangers, there's general knowledge stuff there as well. But know that if you do decide to do this, you will be helping the club through an official licensee channel. So just something to consider if you're looking at a gift for someone as well. I mentioned briefly earlier there that we did have the NARSA Executive meeting last Wednesday evening, where we covered topics such as, we have a staple agenda for each of these. We go through our financials, we go through our RTV, including the cost structure that I mentioned briefly earlier. We talked about NARSA 2022, and then we had quite the spirited discussion around the proposed NARSA Executive structure that I did explain a wee bit about last week on the podcast. And it's good to have those open discussions, and also just to get a flavour and feel for where everyone stands in terms of opinion or thoughts on the proposed changes that I am hoping to get through. So your current executive has one more formal meeting organised for late May. We on this last year we met every second month, and then it's the AGM on the 5th of June, and then we are done. And the new executive will be sworn in and will take us forward from there. So it is exciting to see a light at the end of the tunnel for the existing team, especially as they did graciously extend their tenure for an additional year last year due to the COVID complications that were just so unknown and widespread at the time. And I'm sure anyone on the current executive who decides that they want a break from it all will have a thoroughly deserved break indeed, and thank you to all of them. But we'll talk more about that in future pods. But yeah, the meeting went well, and we move on to the last part of all of our tenures as well. From a communications perspective, a few things that I just wanted to mention from the club this past week. Firstly, last Thursday, the club did reiterate its commitment to protecting the brand of Rangers Football Club, and the article on the website said, we wish to thank the hundreds of supporters who have anonymously reported breaches of Rangers IP, that's intellectual property, and counterfeit goods to our dedicated inbox. And if you do have anyone that you want to report, you would email brand protection, all the one word, brand protection @rangers.co.uk. These supporters are playing an important role in protecting the Rangers brand and the club's commercial revenues. With our appointed brand protection partners, and in close cooperation with Castor, Rangers will apply a zero tolerance approach to breaches of our IP and take all necessary legal measures, including removing club privileges and tickets where required. We are also very grateful to the thousands of supporters who have purchased official Champions products so far. These funds are directly invested into our club as we enter our 150th anniversary season. So it's good to see the club continue to do this, and I'm sure they will probably have stats and facts and figures behind the scenes that will talk about the impact to negative revenue stream and the revenue opportunities that are lost due to fans purchasing fake or counterfeit apparel or merchandise, or where the branding on said merchandise is just in blatant breach of the various Rangers trademarks that they have. So I suspect that this will probably pop up from time to time on this particular topic as we move forward, and I'll happily mention that just from time to time, just in terms of what the club are doing just to try and protect revenues and obviously the the quality of the stuff that's out there from a club perspective as well. Secondly, the Rangers Charity Foundation got in touch just this morning, actually, to let us know that they have launched the Champions Challenge from home. And the Champions Challenge is a version of last year's Blue All Over fun run or walk that they held around about May time. And it was in lieu of actually people getting together and doing the fun runs or walks together and ending up at Ibrox and having powdered paint thrown all over them in the finish line and things like that. And so this year's a bit of a different flavour because it's the Champions Challenge, and they say on the Rangers Charity Foundation website, the Champions Challenge will see supporters everywhere pull on their team colours and run, walk or cycle 5.5 kilometres, 55 kilometres, not 55 kilometres, 55 full stop, 5.5 kilometres, over the course of Champions Weekend on May 14, 15 and 16, when Rangers will be presented with the Scottish Premier League trophy. Supporters will be able to complete this challenge locally in keeping with social distancing regulations, and all ages are welcome to take part. All participants who raise over £55 will receive an exclusive gift as well as a Champions Challenge certificate. Plus, supporters who raise over £150 will become a True Blue hero and will receive the Foundation's new limited edition 150th anniversary commemorative medal. Supporters can also come up with their own 55 themed challenge if they wish, such as walking 55 kilometres or 55,000 steps, or completing a challenge 55 times, as long as the challenge is completed by the end of Champions Weekend. So I love the Champions theme of that. It's such a great take, and the way the club are truly embracing this. I don't find it super cheesy at all. You know, we had a bit of a conversation on the weekend about folks kind of suggesting it was a cash grab. I don't know any other club in the world that wouldn't do something like this, you know, to commemorate and provide people with opportunity to get memorabilia for such an historic achievement as we've had as well. So really good that the foundation are doing this as well. And you might remember that NARSA supported the efforts last year with folks getting involved and doing the challenge from California, you know, Orange County and San Francisco both, and also Calgary where we were. We had, I think we probably had maybe about 10 folks do it, something like that. And I think there was some folks did it over in Montreal as well. Apologies if I missed anyone else in the NARSA family who actively participated, but I'm hoping that we can continue with the same level of support for this year too and raise even more monies for this great organisation. So more to follow on that over the coming weeks, I think, but let the games begin and let's see if Calgary comes out on top again like we did last year as being the best and most represented and raising the most money, or whether we'll have other pretenders to our thrown out there. As I say, let the games begin. We'll put the website for the Charity Foundation in our accompanying blurb for this as well, so you don't have to go searching for it. But a great cause and a great theme for this year as well. So really looking forward to seeing what that looks like. Also, Rangers launched their next season's My Jers memberships as well to encourage fans to continue to support the club directly, and it was kind of funny, actually, because one of our members here in Calgary, Colin, was fortunate enough to receive a complimentary My Jers membership because he had attended the My Jers session back in February with Natalie Nairn from the club, and then he must have gotten his package, which is this year's My Jers membership package, and then an email advertising next season's. So he contacted me in a little bit of a state of confusion, you know, and then once I said, no, you've got this season's package and they just want you to buy next season's package, I think he's back on the straight and narrow again. But you know, they're obviously going to be trying to do this membership scheme every year and try and make it as enticing as possible, and there's some really good articles on the website for that as well, and some interviews in terms of how the funds are being used and distributed within the club. But just in terms of the My Jers package that the folks did get, there was a handful of folks that got them. You know, we did have other winners who got in touch from Ontario and the Chicago area saying that they were absolutely blown away and delighted with the quality and packaging of the contents that they got, which is great to hear. So, you know, good testimony to a good cause, and it's not just you paying money and not getting anything in return. So good to see that. And I also understand that there is a junior My Jers member webinar this Wednesday, I believe it is, so that they do a lot of cool things like that behind the scenes. You don't see a lot of it advertised because the invites will be sent out directly to MyJays members, but they're still very active and still doing great stuff, to provide a return on investment for the investment that people have made as well. So great to see. And, just a couple of other quick things. The club did communicate what the organisation Ibrox Pride has been up to since its launch a couple of years ago, with the article explaining Chairperson Carol Anderson's overview of how the diversity organisation has had to adapt and continue to try and grow awareness and support for the organisation in pandemic times. So a good read, and it gives another angle of how, if you pardon the pun, deep and diverse the club's diversity efforts and endeavours are. So great work by all involved. And finally, just from I don't know if this is a communications, this is where I put it in for this week anyway, but you'll know that the club also launched an appeal into the bans that were handed down into the COVID-5, as we're calling them now, which meant that we had the opportunity to start a couple of the first team guys, Calvin Bassey and Nathan Patterson, in yesterday's game. And time will tell, I guess, whether the appeals will be successful overall. But it is good to see the club make a stand, really, against, what best can be described as inconsistencies in the application of punishment for restrictions, breaches, and also take advantage of the process and structure to have these players, especially the first team squad players, available to help us rotate and rest others as we move into the final critical phase of the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. But yeah, nice to see the club manoeuvring around the system, maybe, if I could say that as well. So good for them for doing that. So this week, as you'll maybe have noticed, we didn't manage to get any interviews secured last week. So kind of what I'd suggested last week is the same for this week, and is that we have a couple, actually probably three, potential interviewees kind of basically waiting on me getting organised. So I hope to get a chance to do that a bit tomorrow, Wednesday, and maybe get the interview done a little bit later this week, if possible. It's a wee bit easier to do it when we don't have midweek games. So we'll get the interview prepped and scheduled, and then hopefully we'll get that out towards the tail end of the week or on the weekend, and then take it from there. So in closing, I just wanted to provide one final reminder of our pending deadline for any proposed constitution changes or any electoral positions. I'm hoping we get this published out tonight, so people would still have time, but if not, I've been talking about it for the last 3 or 4 weeks anyway. But the deadline is midnight Eastern Standard Time tonight, so at the time of recording right now, it's actually 6:07 p.m. As I say this, that's mountain time, so that means that there is less than 4 hours to go before deadline time. And as I tried to implore over the last few weeks, please don't miss out just because of a timing technicality. So, I'd encourage you, don't waste this opportunity. If you have an interest of being involved or trying to find out what the organisation or association is like inside, and and have your voice heard and have your influence help shape the future, we would absolutely love to have you on board. And we are seeing some activity right now on the NARSA Executive positions, and I did get the Constitution Amendment proposal submitted through the formal process, so we'll get more of a chance to discuss that over the next 2 months before the AGM vote, and see if we can get some support for that, because I truly do think it's critical for the ongoing success of the organisation, as I mentioned last week. So few hours left, kind of exciting. I love this time of election season, so please don't delay, and please come and get involved if that's your jam. Just one more wee reminder that if there is anyone from an interview perspective that you would like to hear from on the periphery of the club, or former players or anything like that, what we try and do, as I mentioned before, is not repeat what other people are doing out there. Other people are doing a great job of getting ex-players and going through their history and things like that. We did a version of that with Davy Robertson, but it was more around his new work with Kashmir and his his journey and his book, essentially, that's coming out too. So, but if there's anyone else that you fancy hearing from, please by all means don't hesitate to get in touch, and we'll do our very, very best. So that's a wrap for this week, folks. Thank you very, very much to everyone for taking the time to listen. And as I say every week, please do share this with anyone else you think that might enjoy it, and we'll try and get the listener base up a wee bit and try and continue to grow what we've started with here. Until next week, here's hoping for a solid result against Hibs on Sunday, and we will chat again on Monday. Until then, take care. All the very best. Cheerio.